Thanks again for joining our webinar here today for Holganix. From Soil to Success, talking about our Holganix Bio 800 technology and see what kind of results we have in the field from some of our current customers that are using it on their farms. And this webinar will be interactive if you want it to be. Feel free to put comments in the chat if you have any questions. We'll go ahead and answer them at the end if you have them. And these are the people that will be with us here today. We've got myself, Barrett Ersek. I'm the founder, CEO of Holganix. We've got Tim Barlick there. Nice picture there with his family out on the field. We've got John Nelson, who's out in South Dakota, Lake Preston area, and Grant Strom, who's in Illinois. So that's going to be our panel here today. You get to see pictures of those. And we've got Dave Stark, who's President of Agriculture for Holganix, a PhD molecular biologist, and he'll be available for questions as well as we kind of get through this. Also, anybody who attends the webinar today is going to get a free subscription to the Van Trump report for 30 days. So thanks to the Van Trump team for making that available to anybody who joins us here. It's a great report if you don't read it. You know, I always start my day scanning it. It's got comes out every day and has lots of good information. So definitely take a look at that. And agenda-wise, we're going to cover just a brief overview of Holganix and our technology, and what makes Holganix different from other microbials. We're going to have interviews with our farmers that are on the panel here today, talking about how they have used Bio 800 technology in their fields and what they've seen. We'll have our Q&A for time for whatever you put in the chat. We can go ahead and answer those questions, live, and then we'll go through our upcoming events and webinars at the end. Just if you want to learn more about Holganix, how to do so. So let's start off with, we have two different product formulations at Holganix to help row crop farmers. Lots of customers in corn, soy, cotton, wheat, plenty of customers in specialty crop as well, and a big customer base in turfgrass. But these two products are specifically formulated for row crop farmers. One is designed to apply at planting. It's called Bio 800 Agriculture. So both of these technologies revolve around our Bio 800 technology, but they're different formulations of the Bio 800. The one we use at springtime is designed for germination, rooting, fertilizer efficiency, as well as both products will do a lot to drive soil health. The fall product called Bio 800 Breakdown is specifically formulated to break down corn stover, stubble, any residue left over in the field, driving soil health, releasing nutrients back into the soil. So these are the two products that we have that are relevant to the people on the call today, and we'll be talking about experience with farmers using these two different formulations of our Bio 800 technology. When I talk about Bio 800, there's a lot of microbial technologies that are hitting the market today, and I know it can be overwhelming at times when you have so many different choices. What makes Holganix really stand apart from any other microbial technology that we can find comes down to our biodiversity. It's called Bio 800 Plus because we use over 800 species of bacteria, fungi, amoeba, and protozoa that are all working together in a system approach to drive healthy soil, healthy plants. The benefits to our farmers are we can typically reduce N, P, and K fertilizer by anywhere from 10 to 50%. So 50% is a bold statement and takes a while to get there, but certainly that 10% efficiency we typically see right off the bat, and we can start to move the needle from there the more you use the product. We typically see higher yields. Often we'll see 5 to 10 bushels in corn, 3 to 7 in beans, sometimes much higher than that, but that's a pretty common kind of yield improvement we see with a single application. We see better stand count, improved germination, much better plants that are able to withstand all kinds of stress, whether that be heat, drought, disease. We see improvement in all of those situations. Ultimately, we can help people move towards a reduced tillage program or a no-till program. Tremendously more root mass. You will typically see very noticeably anywhere from 4 to 10 times more root mass in a plant treated with Holganix Bio 800. Obviously, that helps the plant in all kinds of ways. It also helps create healthier soils. So every time you use a Bio 800 product on your farm, you're taking a step towards building your soil health. And we like to say soil health is a journey. I like to see it like a flywheel kind of analogy where the more energy you put in that flywheel, the better that flywheel continues to turn and gain momentum. And so the more you use the Bio 800 products, the more you're going to put energy into that soil health, that flywheel of soil health, and it's going to continue to get better over time. Certainly a single application, we can measure and show results in both improved yield, better fertilizer efficiency, and soil health measurements that we can take and show you that it's improving. But we also, the more you use it, the better it continues to get. And then obviously the breakdown product is really good at breaking down residue and goes a long way to improve your planter performance. So how do you apply our Bio 800 products? Real easy to apply. Put it down for the spring application, the one that we use at planting. Go ahead and put it down as close to planting as practical. You know, we can go 2 weeks pre or post planting, but as close to planting as practical. Half a gallon an acre. You can mix it right with whatever you're putting down anyway. Your fertilizer, your starter fertilizers, your pre or post emergent herbicides. You can go in furrow or you can broadcast it. The only thing we don't want you to tank mix with is a fungicide, because we have a lot of beneficial fungi, and fungicides obviously are designed to knock back your fungal organisms. So we don't want to tank mix with a fungicide. You can use fungicides on your field if you need to, but don't tank mix with Bio 800. Everything else that you are mixing, you should go ahead and put down with our product. And consider, reducing your fertilizer right up front. We typically see better results actually at lower fertilizer rates. And don't make big reductions right off the bat. If you just want to reduce by 10% the first time and baby step your way through it, that will help pay for the product by reallocating those fertilizer dollars to pay for the microbial. But also we see a better reaction from the microbes when there's not just an absolute abundance of fertilizer, like more than the plant needs. And the breakdown product we apply is right after harvest. We want to get it down to where we have a few weeks of decent soil temps, so that the microbes can go to work and start to decay the stubble and the stover. Half a gallon an acre again. We like to broadcast it with 15 gallons of water or more, just to make sure we get enough kind of moisture into the stover for the plants, for the microbes to go down and do their work. So easy to apply, and goes through all your conventional sprayers. Again, in furrow, side dress, over the top, however you want to do it. So let's talk, from our farmers on the call here today. What kind of crops do they grow? How long they've been using Bio 800 products? And we'll start. Tim, are you on the call? Do you want to give us kind of answer this question? Give everybody feedback on who you are, where you're from, and how you use the products.
Yeah, sure. I'm Tim Barlick. I'm in Southwest Nebraska. We are a very arid environment. We actually got an inch of rain totally this past week, which is the first inch we've gotten since I think June 4th. So wow. We're definitely dry. We are irrigated, so that does help. But we raise corn, soybeans, edible beans, wheat, popcorn, alfalfa, do a lot of custom cutting for guys on swathing and baling. That's probably the nutshell of my operation. And I have had some organic. That's actually what got me started in this Holganix endeavor. Was I tried 5 or 6 different organic things, and this one with the microbial was the one that was a noticeable difference. When you're looking down the rows, I could see a difference with the crop compared to all the other stuff that was organic. And I'm not certified organic anymore, but this stuff I'm going to continue to use because it made such a huge difference on all my fields, but especially that first year was a huge difference.
Cool. How long have you been using the product, Tim?
I think, what has this been, 4 or 5 years? This will be year 5, I think.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate you being here. We got some more questions to ask as we get deeper into the presentation. John Nelson, you want to cover what crops you're growing and how long you've been using Bio 800 products?
Sure. Good afternoon. John Nelson from East Central South Dakota. We grow mainly corn and beans, some wheat. We been using 4 years. This will be our 5th year as well. We first heard about Holganix in the winter of 20, after coming off 2019 in my area. We were extremely wet, probably 70% prevent plant, and I had never really thought about biologicals much up to that point. But listening to Barrett and Dave talk about how the biology suffers under really wet conditions, and so it really made sense to us. And so we used it that year, seeing a nice difference between the treated and untreated, and we've used it since.
Great. Thanks, John. I appreciate you being on the call and taking some time out to talk to people who want to learn about our product. And then Grant Strom, you're on the call. Want to tell us what you grow out there and how long you've been using Bio 800?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Barrett. Thanks for having me on. We're located in Knox County, Illinois, which is kind of between Peoria and Galesburg, west central Illinois. Grow corn, soybeans, a little bit of hay, alfalfa, have some pasture land as well. So this upcoming year, 2024, will be our 4th year using the Holganix products. Year 1, we just had a few acres out. Year 2, we probably went up to about 2/3 of our acres. Then last year, we were 100% of our acres were applied with Holganix, and actually last fall for the first time was our first fall experience with the breakdown product, which thus far we've been very, very happy with. We did about 2/3 of our corn stalk acres to try to speed up some of that breakdown process, because we are a primarily no tillage farm, and so managing that residue has become a pretty significant issue. But we've seen really good success with the product thus far. We've used a lot of different biological products. We test products all the time, and I will say that out of most products we test, not very many of them actually make it into the systems program we put together. But Holganix was definitely kind of one of those unicorn products that we saw a lot of success with from year 1. And everything you showed on that slide there a couple slides ago about all the benefits of using Holganix, we've seen pretty much all of those. And obviously everybody wants a yield bump, but all those other things in a systems approach have been extremely beneficial to our farm and family.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that feedback, and thanks for your long-term loyalty to the product and your diligent testing, Grant. And thanks for saying those things you said there. Let's see if we can get this slide to advance here. So we kind of covered some of this, but let's just kind of go a little deeper. You know, as you looked at other microbials on the farm that you could use, what made you want to test Holganix Bio 800 on the farm, and you know, kind of what were some of the things you saw quickly? Grant, you want to cover that, since we just kind of heard some of that from you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I first learned about Holganix. We've been a subscriber to the Van Trump report for many years now, and always picked up a lot of good information there from Kevin and his group. And we started seeing the literature about Holganix, and we've been trying some different products. And once we started really understanding that, I know we went to some of our first meetings at FarmCon with your group and learned about everything that was actually in the product versus what the competition was trying to sell. Just the microbials and the fungi and the broad spectrum approach we really liked, because we knew that not every one of our soils was necessarily the same. And so we needed kind of a broad approach. We farm from really high priced, you know, $20-some thousand an acre land, to river bottoms that are prone to flooding, to what we call timber soils that are kind of white, chalky, tend not to drain or percolate water very well. So we have a very broad spectrum that we're covering on our acres. And this is a product that fit right in the mix. We were already doing some in-furrow work on our planter. So this was a product that we started mixing it in a half gallon an acre with our current fertilizer program, and had zero issues with compatibility. We've had products in the past that as soon as you put them in the planter, they immediately started to plug stuff up. We've had, going into year 4 now, we've had zero issues with Holganix. As long as it was stored properly, we've had zero issues of Holganix being compatible with anything we're doing. And we have not quite as much experience on our soybeans. We did quite a few acres last year on the soybeans. We'll do them all again this year. But we're just real intrigued by the pictures and the makeup of the product itself. And once we got the ease of use and compatibility, it kind of made it a no-brainer. And I know half-gallon per acre use rate can be a little higher than a lot of products are, but in actuality, we kind of like that. It fits into our system okay. Obviously, you're handling bulk tanks versus jugs, which I don't mind in the least. And we just found it was just a really great fit for our operation.
Great. Well, thanks for that feedback, Grant. John, do you have anything to add on what brought you here to start testing Bio800 in the first place? Or
I guess you said that in the first part. I guess that's what really brought us in. So yeah.
Okay, great. So let's just talk about soil health. Moving towards no-till or cover crop or any other management practices. John, you want to talk about your kind of journey towards no-till?
Yeah. So when we started this, we were conventional till. 1 year in, after we seen the roots that Holganix helped the plants produce compared to the controls, we decided to go into no-till, and we actually sold our tillage equipment to commit to it. And it's really interesting. So after 4 years of using Holganix and no-till, people talk about the lag time going from conventional to no-till being 3 to 5 years, and our yields haven't dropped off. And I credit that to growing the biology faster in our soils, and it's also made our soils softer, more aggregated in that process, and our bulk densities have really decreased. So and then we have started to try to incorporate cover crops. They're a little bit tougher up here because we don't have that length of time in the fall, but we're figuring out some ways to do that.
Yeah, that's neat, John. Thanks for the feedback there. Tim, out your way, totally different part of the country in what you're doing with such little rain. What are you doing to really pay attention to soil health and tillage and that type of thing?
We're working on no-till. I just came from the Burlington no-till conference, so I'm all hopped up on cover crops and no-tilling and all sorts of stuff. But no, we've been trying to do, Dad's been conventional tillage, trying to just get rid of one disc was bad enough, but we've finally gotten it down to where we're at least only strip tilling, and we're just going down the same strip. So we're at least halfway no-till, maybe is the way to put it. But with the microbial life, like I think John just said, the amount of time that it takes to recover from one tillage pass or trying to put our fertilizer down with that strip till made such a huge difference. Where we get high yield, we get a lot of residue. We have a lot of issues in the springtime with trying to get everything in the ground. It thaws and it's wet, trying to get everything done quickly and not getting stuck or rutting. And the Holganix has really made a difference on a lot of that. Being able to cut down my fertilizer, I've been was this my 4th year? I'm at 40% fertilizer from where I was, not on price but on usage. So my overall budget's about half where I was 4 years ago with fertilizer prices now. But that makes the banker happy, makes me happy, makes profitability. So with regards to cover crops and no-till, I really can't argue with not having to pay the co-op as much as I used to. With almost double my acres where I was 5 years ago, I'm paying them less. So I feel great about that.
Now, that's great. Yeah, we see, using Bio800 technology, we have plenty of customers that are full till and continue to be that, and that's fine if that's how they want to run their operation. But if anybody wants to move towards a less tillage, whether you're going to go strip till, minimum till, or no till, Holganix Bio800 will help you get there and help you. It's kind of a bit of a hack to help us get there quicker with less pain and and ultimately, as Tim was just saying, improve our profit per acre by reducing our inputs. So, we see that as a great tool, and thanks for bringing that up, Tim. I appreciate that. Tim, I think is this from your part of the country?
Yeah, that's a pasture that we actually sprayed with Holganix. It was CRP. It had some decent grass in it, but it had a lot of milk thistle, and the Holganix really helped the grass kick off before the milk thistle get out. So we actually had a decent cutting off of it. But the growth, we had 22, we had the record lowest rainfall. I think we had 4 inches of rainfall the whole year. In 22, maybe that was during the growing season. I think we had like 8 inches for the whole year, which was really dry. But coming off of that, we didn't even know if we'd have anything to cut this year on that. And yeah, I mean, sprayed half gallon over the top, 15 gallons water. And yeah, 2 weeks later, we're like, we might actually get a crop out of this. And I think about a month later, that right picture was about a month, 3 weeks, something like that. We're like, heck yeah. And it ended up being the best cutting he'd ever gotten off of that field. So, and that was all we put on. We only put on Holganix and 2 pounds of sugar, and we didn't put any NPK on at all. He's debated about keeping it towards the organic side or not. So I'm just keeping everything protected that way. But he was really happy on what we got out of that.
That's great. And yeah, you will see, universally using Bio 800, you'll see faster germination, faster establishment, better rooting, healthier plant, and that's everything that we saw there with Tim that gave him those results. So talking about results, we're going to talk about kind of other results that you all have seen. And Tim, this is you again. You want to tell us what's going on here?
Yeah, this was my sandy field. This has been my toughest field. This was the one that the first field I did Holganix on. Now this was actually this year's picture. This would be the 3rd year of putting Holganix on, but basically we started with a 624-6 in furrow on the left, and that was down to the center pivot. We turned around, came back, and we kicked on the Holganix. I have 2 tanks, so I added the Holganix on at the other end and opened it up. And I mean, I wasn't even looking for the Holganix in this picture. I was trying to see how good of a job the co-op did spraying, and I was like, what the heck happened here? It's like, oh yeah, and that was the test strip. Okay, we got to take a picture or two. And that was, I think I looked, it was like 3 weeks after this picture, after planting. And I know they say picture's worth 1,000 words. That's a heck of a cliche, but when I saw that and I had to stop, it's like, dang, I'm glad I made a good decision. I'm glad I only did 1 strip on the field and not the rest of the field, that I put it to Bio 800 on the rest of it. So that was nice.
Yeah, that was cool. So you put it right out through the pivot when you actually applied it?
No, this was in furrow. I did a half gallon, or in furrow without on the left and with Holganix on the right in furrow.
Okay.
There's about 2 minute difference between planting the 2 sides.
Yeah, and you can see obviously way ahead on the Bio 800 treated, which is going to give that plant all kinds of advantages.
Yeah.
So really neat pictures there.
Yeah.
Thanks for documenting that.
That's the best. That's the best that field has done by 6 bushels ever. Last year I hit a record with that sand. That was 161. I was excited about that. I was shooting for 165 on that field, and we hit 167. And that's every year I put Holganix on, my yield just goes up and up and up.
That's awesome. Love hearing that. So again, helping improve profit per acre by reducing inputs, but also improving yield. So our goal is put money back in your pocket. We don't want Holganix to cost you a nickel. In fact, we want Holganix to actually make you money. That's our intention, while we help you build soil health. And I think Tim's story kind of tells that pretty well. Let's talk about how we reduce our inputs. Grant, have you used Holganix and experimented with your fertilizer rates?
Yes, we have. So we've actually dropped our fertilizer rates pretty significantly in the last 3 years, especially. I know it's one of those things that always makes a farmer nervous, because you're just kind of taught a certain way how you're supposed to fertilize based off university recs or whatever the talking head might be that's telling you how much to use of what and where. And obviously fertilizer has become a very significant expense in the last decade, and we've had a lot of variability in price here in the last 3 to 5 years. And I will say we're currently using about 15% less nitrogen than we were 3 years ago through this process. I know we could probably go with more reductions. It's just one of those things you get nervous about with nitrogen on corn especially. And actually we've switched to banded fertility on our P and K. So like pounds of P205, pounds of K2O, we're at about 50% of where we were 3 years ago. And we play around, we have in-furrow and 2x2 fertilizers on our planter. Everything is banded 100%, except about half the nitrogen is more broadcast and the rest of it's all banded. And the Holganix component has really made that decision much more comfortable because we know that we're doing what we can to try to maximize what our soil is able to provide us. And most of our farms have good fertility levels, especially we tend to have higher phosphorus soils in our area. So especially the applied phos we've really cut that back pretty significantly in the last 3 years. Our soils tend to be a little more naturally low in potassium, so we haven't cut that one quite as much. But we're down 30 to 40% on it between banding and using Holganix. So it's like, as you said before, it's really a product that it's not necessarily a fertilizer, so to speak, but it's kind of taken a place in our fertilizer budget, and that's how we've paid for it, regardless of, obviously the yield benefits we know are there too, but we have it pretty much paid for, we feel, before we even harvest the crop.
Yeah, that's what we want to see. We want to see the product go down at no risk and no cost to you, because we're going to help drive that efficiency, and then the soil health and the yield benefit that's the money back into the farmer's pocket. Dave Stark, if you're on the call, could you help us understand why microbes are helping reduce fertilizer?
Oh boy, so in a sound bite that's tough, but essentially there's a couple of things that happen. First of all, the microbes, when you've got a healthy, active biome in the soil, they actually grab the fertilizer first. And that's a good thing because they live in the root zone. So we really minimize the waste. And as the microbes, frankly, eat each other as they grow and divide eating the fertilizer, they cycle the nutrients right back out to the plant. And that's what's happening. The microbes also are really good at mining the soil. So they can unlock that bound P and K and some of the micronutrients that the plant root just can't. And this is why plants feed microbes through root exudates, because the microbes do a really good job feeding the plant.
Yeah, that was pretty good, Dave. Maybe it was 2 or 3 sound bites, but pretty good explanation.
I'll put in a plug, and for more information, listen to the No-Till Farmer webinar next Tuesday.
Yeah, where Dave's going to go really into the science of it all. Today we're kind of covering high level how our farmers are using it in the field, but Dave will go into a lot of the science on using any kind of microbial, not just our products, on that No-Till webinar. So we'll give you the links to those at the end here. And John Nelson, how about your journey towards fertilizer efficiency using Bio 800? Any feedback you have there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Grant, we've cut back the last 3 years quite significantly. And it's kind of interesting. Today I'm out in beautiful Deadwood, South Dakota, at an agronomy meeting last 2 days, and some really good speakers, and most of them are saying increase your biology and reduce your fertilizer. And so that plays into what we're talking about, doesn't it? So we probably went further ourselves than a lot of people would be comfortable. We have high levels of phosphorus and potassium, so we've actually cut out all dry phosphorus and potassium in our corn and beans, but we don't put any fertility on our beans at all, other than maybe some foliar. And same with corn. If we need, looks like we need a little potassium, we'll put a little potassium acetate out there. But we're using the biology to release what's in our soil and feed our plants, and our tissue samples show that. I've continued to have higher levels of phosphorus and potassium provided it rains. Last spring we had a hard time getting potassium in because we were dry. But the biology, as it becomes more robust, continues to release more of that stored nutrient, like Dave was saying. And so we've reduced that significantly, and we're back 40% or more on our nitrogen. And so we're using somewhere from 0.5 to 0.6, depending on the field, units per bushel. And
Wow.
yeah, and I haven't seen any yield decrease. And in fact, I just continue to see our plants get healthier because of that. And I think that's more people are going to hear about going forward and learn that some of this excess fertility that we put on holds back our biology and tends to hurt us. And so that this has been a really interesting journey, and I look forward to seeing more results.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that feedback. That was really, really interesting. And you talked, John, about reducing your inputs, and you kind of referenced that maybe your yields are even moving up as you're reducing your inputs. Can you give us a little more on that, on your beans or your corn?
Well, this last year, on beans specifically, as I reduce commercial fertility, increase biology, I'm starting to see a different structure to my beans. I'm stacking nodes more. Stems are getting thicker. I knew the bean had a taproot, but when I was tilling the ground and didn't have the biology in it, I didn't have that taproot. And today I'm starting to see a deeper taproot, better nodulation. And so it's all playing into plant health, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. And so, John, you're using 0.5, 0.6, whatever units nitrogen per bushel, and you're getting how many bushels per acre on your corn?
200 this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My APH is over that, but Dave doesn't believe me, but we started out dry. So.
That's cool. And by the way, this is one of our customers that actually did the green stripes are where the Bio 100 was applied, and the light green is where it wasn't applied. So they did like an every other, kind of pass there with the application, and you can see the microbes going to work and making the nitrogen available and giving us that green response. So that's a pretty neat picture because it just shows it so vividly. And Tim, you've seen yields improve over the years as well. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, the first year that I did Holganix, I did one half the field and the other half without, and just to see if this microbial stuff, if it was just a fluke with all that organic stuff, or if it actually worked. And on the half that I did, it bumped 50 bushels, which I know that's total bragging rights right there, or cliche, but that was, I recalibrated my monitor to make sure I was actually yielding that much. But when I went to the other side, that wasn't. It was right back down to the 130, 135 where it normally is. And there was 8 spots. I've never seen that sandy field hit like over 220. Just briefly hit 220, and it hit over 300 8 times. And wow. I was dumbfounded. And it's like, this can't just, the Holganix, the bugs itself, the microbes, and okay, we'll try the whole field, we'll try this and that, we'll go to the heavier ground, and every time it's just amazing. That field used to average 130, 135. Like I said, I'm at 167 now. Just 5 to 7 bushels every year, more and more. It's downright exciting, and it's certainly tough to argue with, because my organic matter was 0.6 to 0.9 on that, and I don't know if they hit some extra grass or something, but they said it was a 2%. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that, but but it's certainly, when you look at the deep green that, I haven't seen that on my field before, especially with that low organic matter. In that sugar sand, it never should have been taken out and put into production. It probably should have stayed pasture or wild. But it is what it is, and that's what I've got. So I've got to farm it that way. And I can't even describe how awesome it's been. Just like, wow, okay, we'll just keep using this. And my fertility, my nitrogen on that field was 3/4 of a pound per bushel yield. And on sand, the co-op's telling me I need to be 1.2 to 1.4 pounds of N per acre, and I'm like, that's your money. I don't want to give that to you. I want it. So, sorry, they don't pay my mortgage. They don't pay my tractor bill. So yeah, I'm keeping that money. And this keeps going. It just breaks my heart to cut my fertility even another 10% more this year.
Yeah, that's great. Love hearing that. Thanks for sharing it. And by the way, we, on corn, we tell you, hey, look, use our product, and we typically see a 5 to 10 bushel per acre improvement. Sometimes we see much more, as we just heard from Tim. But if you can count on that 5 to 10, reduce your fertilizer right up front, that alone will make you money each year. And we say put us on your worst ground first, and that's kind of what we just heard from Tim is, your poorer performing ground will have a bigger percentage increase. But you go out to Grant, who's a lot of Grant's got some challenging ground here and there, but I think a lot of Grant's ground is pretty nice. It's about the best soil that maybe God put on this earth in some of your fields, Grant, from what I saw. But you're seeing a yield bump as well, Grant, in your rich soils as well as your poor soils.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with the tougher the conditions, the greater the yield response, and that's definitely something that we've seen. I know the first 2 years we did a lot of side-by-sides in corn, and had various situations. You had some corn on corn, first year corn, heavy black soils, timber soils, and we were anywhere from 0 bushel advantage to 9 bushel advantage on our farms. And definitely, the 9 bushels came from a tough farm. We had a customer that same couple of years ago when he first started using it. They just had a 160 acre field that was tough conditions, and they every kind of like this picture, every other pass, and they did multiple ways across that field, and they were 3 to 9 bushel advantage. And anything that can be done in our part of the world where we do, I talk about our poor soils, but some of the soil types and sand conditions that are mentioned on this webinar, I mean, even our poor soils are considerably better than the conditions they're dealing with. So I don't want to make it sound like we deal with that sort of situation, but if you can get 3, 7, 9 bushel out of just changing a single product in our area, that is very, very significant. There's not a lot of products you can do that with here. And so that's what we've been telling our customers: give us your worst stuff, toughest conditions, and we'll see what the product can do there. And I'd say on average, we're more 3 to 5 bushel pretty consistently on corn, which again, that alone pays for the product, let alone the fertilizer reductions and all that sort of thing we've done. And I know on our tougher ground too, we're starting to see some. I had mentioned this, I know previously, but we had actually a farm. We've been farming it for probably near 30 years. Our family has, and we were just about at our wits' end to try to figure out and unlock, the potential of what we felt this farm could be. And always had soil percolation issues. Ground would get really hard. Emergence was always a tremendously difficult thing on this farm. It's like we'd plant it and you get a hard rain, the ground would crust over, couldn't get the corn to come up. And we started cover cropping that farm a couple, 3 years ago. This would be, last year would have been the second year for the entire farm to have Holganix. 2 years ago, we harvested record beans behind cover crops and Holganix for that farm. And this year it was, we had a good corn crop this year, not a record corn crop. And that was the only farm that we had a record corn crop for that particular farm this year. And so that was just extremely exciting for us. We did not leave any test strips out there with Holganix. We just were believers in it and put it out. That farm got a pretty significant rainfall within 24 hours of being planted, and we thought for sure we were going to be tearing it up and replanting it. But to our surprise, we had a good enough, not a perfect, but good enough emergence to keep, and ended up having a record yield for that farm. So it's one of those things, I can't show you a number to verify, like a side-by-side, but there's no question in my mind that Holganix is part of the solution that we figured out on that farm.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Grant. So you just heard, richer soils where Grant is, the challenging soils where Tim is. Obviously both places we're helping in different ways. Anybody has any questions, feel free to put it in the question or the chat, and we'll have these guys answer the questions for you at the end of the presentation, if you have any. So South Dakota here, John, this is your neck of the woods. Tell us what's going on.
Well, this would have been in my second year, I believe. Again, you see a deeper root, and it's not quite as noticeable here, but the stem diameter is larger. That's something that I've noticed. I've also noticed that the corn stalks generally are rounder in shape, as well as larger, and that just goes to the xylem and the phloem. It helps, you're helping move nutrients up and down that stalk better.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
2 to 5 is normally what I see. This last year, on ground that's had Holganix on it for 3 years, I did a strip trial there, and I continue to see that 5 bushel advantage to the applications. So.
Yeah, that's great. Love seeing that, John. And then here's your beans, John. Similar story there.
Similar story there. The stem diameter on the beans, you'll notice a larger stem diameter, which is important to support those laterals as the bean grows. You see the deeper taproot, and nodulation is very noticeable, and earlier too. Those nodules will start very early. And one thing I don't know if you can tell in here, but I've been tracking the Holganix seems to help those cotyledons stay on longer, and that tends to indicate plant health. The longer you can keep those cotyledons on your soybean, the healthier that soybean is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, a healthier plant's going to survive any kind of stress better, and it's going to typically have better yield, and everything's just going to work better. And that's an example of that. And John's really modest, and he probably is wincing right now because I'm showing you all this, but I can't help myself. So John, you want to tell us what's going on here, John, or you need me to do it?
So I entered the soybean contest this year for the first time in South Dakota. It was a group 2.3 bean, and obviously you can see there we won. This was on my home quarter, and it received less than 10 inches of rain this year, or this last year. So,
and you use no PRK on that, or?
I use no fertility at all, NP and K, on those beans. I used Holganix and some micronutrients, and did a micronutrient pass a couple times during the season, and that was pretty much it.
Awesome, John. Well, congratulations on that. Obviously, it's a sign of the diligence that you've had in building soil health over the years and everything you're doing. And county average, John, just to give people perspective?
Our county average is probably somewhere around 42.
Right. Well, that's pretty good. So thanks for sharing that, John. I know sometimes you don't like me to talk about it because it's so modest, but it's pretty cool. So we heard John talk a little bit about plant health on his beans. Tim, do you have any feedback on plant health? Any issues around I don't know how your disease pressure is up there, so dry, maybe you don't have a whole lot of disease. or any feedback on lodging or anything else?
Yeah, as far as disease, with our edible beans, white mold is our biggest issue in general. But this, the fungal tendencies on this that has the good fungi in it really helps keep a lot of those that, if you have little pressure, you start getting heavy pressure, which one of my guys that he loves, he hasn't even put it on Holganix on his corn yet. This will be the first year he puts it on in 24, but he's put it on beans 3 years in a row, and he just loves it. The leaf size of his beans he said they're almost twice as big as what they used to be before Holganix. Of course, photosynthesis, yield, obviously everything equates, but trying to get him to back off on his irrigating at certain times of the year, we're still working on that. Where he had a little white mold issue, but it's like, well, shut your pivot off once in a while. If you've got enough moisture, you don't need to. But this has helped me where I don't apply fungicide anymore. Even if I have a hailstorm, I will actually put this out instead, just because the microbes will help the plant so much better than just trying to put a Band-Aid on it with fungicide. I nixed fungicide 2 years ago, and I don't see why I would ever go back with this kind of stuff. I'd rather use this as my fix for the crops that are damaged from hailstorm or anything, windstorm, stuff like that. This just does so much better. So I'd much rather spend my money on this than give it to Bayer and watch them take it when it only puts a Band-Aid on, and I still have to deal with more disease later. It seems like this stuff will actually give me a chance to make it better and heal those plants so much faster.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for the feedback there, Tim. And what we see, just as a very quick soundbite, and if you want to learn more about this, Dave's webinar, no-till webinar, will give you a lot of information. But generally, you get the good guys outnumbering the bad guys, and the bad guys can't do their job. So think about pathogen organisms and beneficial organisms that we're applying with Holganix Bio 800. So we get more beneficials to take up the space in that soil and on that plant, and as a result, the pathogens can't really spread like they used to. So we build something called suppressive soils by making them healthier at a microbial level, and we see less disease, less fungus, and just better overall plant performance. So Grant, did you notice anything on disease and fungus improvements? I don't know that you did or didn't. I was ask if you saw it.
Yeah, I can't say we've really charted, disease, like especially late season. We're still pretty big users of fungicide. We tend to have a lot of rainfall at once, it seems like. This year was unique. We had quite a bit of rain early, then no rain for 7 to 8 weeks, then 10 inches in 2 weeks, then no rain for 4 weeks, then another 10 inches in 2 weeks. And so it's really difficult not to utilize the fungicides in this area. But overall, from like a young plant standpoint, without question, some of the pictures you showed earlier definitely apply to our farm too. Larger leaf area, more roots, faster coming out of the ground, more growth. There's no question we're getting those plants off to a healthier start than we have in years past.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Grant. So again, 2 different parts of the country and different kinds of results that we're seeing. This is a pretty cool video.
That was with Bio 800. No Bio 800.
So that's kind of a cool, just very quick, visual of what we're able to do to improve the tilt of the soil by using the microbes. Tim, did you see this type of experience out your way?
As far as the digging, yeah, compaction is certainly a lot less of an issue with the Holganix. It's much more of a sponge on the ground than the harder stuff with tillage. So we're still fighting some of our hard pan tillage stuff that we've done for Grandpa and Dad did for many years. So we're improving, but we're not there yet. I hope to be able to dig out like they did on the left there, but you can definitely see the difference in a lot of the soil. The dark greenness of the plant really tells me that we're going the right way, at least. But yeah, maybe I'll get to be like those guys in Iowa and have nice soil, black soil like they got there. So
Yeah, that'd be good. John, you got any experience on improving the tilt of the soil, and obviously what this represents with this shovel? But
Yeah, so we started last year measuring our bulk density. We hadn't done that before. Our shovel will definitely go into the ground easier than it did before. Our bulk densities have actually probably average around 1. And if you're not familiar with that scale, below 1.1, the roots have pretty much complete access to the soil. And yeah, as you get to 1.5, they're restricted. And so that tells me and shows me that that the biology, that Holganix has been improving that. And this next year, we're going to start doing infiltration tests, and just to see how fast we can actually put an inch of rain in the ground, or up to 5 inches. So we know that.
yeah. And Dave Stark, you kind of looked at some of the results from a broad study that was done in Iowa with independently done with a co-op. About filtration? You want to mention that? Do you have any of that data at the top of your fingers?
Yes, so there was a group of interns that went out and they tested soil through the season on 44 different farms across Iowa and a little bit into Nebraska. And what they found over from planting in May until the last endpoint they took around the middle of July is a 60% increase in water infiltration versus the check, which is just incredible. And then of course they followed bulk density and it decreased as you would expect. And what this shows is, because scientifically is as the fungi get established and grow, they actually glue the soil particles together and open it up. And so it really tracks the growth of the fungi in the product along with the roots.
That's neat. And do you remember how many? That was across a broad number of studies they did.
It was 44 different farms.
Yeah, that's cool. And in fact, Dave, we have a question here from the group that's has the product been used in any third-party studies, and if so, where can they be accessed? Any information on that, Dave, that you could direct them to?
There are a lot of third-party studies. We actually have a product performance book that is only third-party studies, and I'm pretty sure there's a link to that now on our website. If not, I know that our marketing people have a link, because I send it out to people so we can make that available.
Yeah, Ritu, why don't you, everybody's on the webinar here, why don't you just make sure they get that link so that people can see that. And Ritu's in the background running the technology here, so she will make sure that you get that. And so let's just cover, we're coming towards the end of our webinar here, and if there are any other questions, we're happy to answer them. If not, we'll just kind of cover some stuff with you that we typically hear. But let's just cover very briefly around the Bio 800 breakdown and what you might have seen with this. Now, there's other microbial products out there that claim to be, breakdown aids. If you look at what's in them, just ask the sales rep, can you tell me what's in there, and look at the label that's doing the job, and what you're going to find is they're all a handful of bacillus that are generally good at putting holes in stover, but they don't actually consume stover. So if you have more holes in it, I guess it should break down quicker, and it may have an impact. But what we do is we have the same bacillus, but we also have this beneficial fungi that actually consume the stover from the inside out and convert it into humus, adding organic matter back to the soil, adding nutrients back to the soil. So of the gang on the Tim or John or Grant, have any of you used the breakdown, and any feedback you have for the other attendees here?
Yeah, so we put out like 15 or 1,800 acres of breakdown this past fall. I was hoping to get it on more acres, but the end of our harvest kind of took us into November, and by that time it was pretty cold. So it is a product you definitely want to get out as soon as you can. Following that combine, you want to utilize that warmer temps and hopefully a little bit of moisture you get in the fall. So we immediately saw, really just after a week, like you get a decent rain and get some warm temperatures, you could start to see the the residue kind of get that black decomp type look to it. You can go out there and pull the residue back and find some of that fungus growing actually under the residue, which is all a sign that that breakdown is really starting to happen out there. And it's really a huge difference between last year and this year. We didn't use any type of breakdown product last fall, and we really struggled with some residue issues this spring trying to plant soybeans early. And I told Tad, said, whatever acres we can possibly get across with the sprayer, we may just have to stop the combine a day to focus on getting some breakdown product out there. And I'm really glad we did that in a couple instances. That we tried to put our crew on getting some breakdown out there, and I think it's definitely going to pay off on trying to plant some of these earlier beans in early part of April and not have as much residue to deal with. And so we're real excited about that. And then again, we're going to apply Bio 800 on all those stocks again this spring. So whatever we didn't get done in the fall, we're hoping to get the right environmental conditions this spring to kind of restart that process and get it going again.
Hey, that's great. Thanks for that feedback, Grant. John or Tim, have you guys used the breakdown and have any feedback?
This was kind of my first year to fall. I did get it on a quarter of ground. On the 19th of October, we had a week, 10 days of pretty nice weather, and then we went into the 20s for an extended period before we warmed up again in the latter part of November. But like Grant said, it had that week, 10 days, so I did see a graying off to it. I did leave strips, so I'm pretty excited to see what this spring brings, comparing those strips to the treated and untreated. Like Grant said, it'd be nice to be out there right behind the combines, especially further north, where we can turn pretty cold in October. And I hope it works out good, because it'll sure help in the spring.
Yeah, and I tell you, we typically do see that we get better germination in the spring on fields that have been treated, because we just get a better stand count. The planter can get through the field easier. We see less diesel usage, and we see better germination, and we're also releasing all those nutrients back into the field. Dave, do you have the numbers off the top of your head on a ton of stover and how the NPK result release that is potentially there?
Yeah. So for every 40 bushels of corn, you produce about a ton. So in every ton, there's 17 pounds of nitrogen, about 3-4 pounds of phosphorus, and 34 pounds of potassium, and about 3 pounds of sulfur. So, that's a lot. When if you've got a 200 bushel an acre crop, 5 tons, there's a lot of nutrients tied up that you've already paid for, and this will help put them back in the ground.
Yeah, perfect. So let's get those nutrients back in the ground and ready for the next year. We've got our open Q&A here. We've gone a little bit long because we went into a lot of detail on some of this, and it looks like the one question we had, we did answer already. So if there are other questions, feel free to email us afterwards. We'd be happy to engage anybody on any questions they might have. But I do want to cover our upcoming events. We've got the Western Farm Show coming up in Kansas City, Missouri. We'll be there, and so look for us. Come see our people there. Ask lots of questions. Love to talk to you if you're in the area. And Commodity Classic will be out there as well. So Dave and I will both be there. And if there's anything we can do to help educate, answer any questions, or just say hello, love to meet you. So come on out and see us there. And we've also Grant, you want to tell us about this event that you're putting on?
Unmute myself here. Yeah, we're pretty excited that we're going to be kind of hosting our first on-farm event to kind of showcase the Holganix product. After that first year of trials, we really like what we saw, and we signed on as a dealer. So we've been selling some Holganix for 3 years now. So we're excited to get a group of farmers at our farm, and we are really looking at this as a big picture opportunity with all the current carbon policy, talk of low carbon intensity corn production for next generation biofuels. And that's really, and Holganix is playing a big part of that in our operation, where we can lower our CI scores by reducing tillage, reducing fertilizer, utilizing cover crops, and really using that systems approach. Organics has become a very important piece of that. And so we've learned a lot about these, and we're thankful that we've put together what we feel is a really, really strong panel to talk about policy, carbon, renewable fuel markets, low carbon intensity corn, how biologicals, in particular organics, can play a role in helping improve your farm scores, and how it can, as we said, go beyond just a yield increase. It can do all these different things for your farm to help you capture premiums that we're hoping that will be available soon. So March 7th, we'll get this flyer to the marketing team too. So we're located West Central Illinois between Peoria and Galesburg, but I don't care how far anybody wants to travel to come over. It's a free event, free lunch. We got some sponsors. We'll have some cool technology and some vendors. I know Brian Hansel with Holganix and Barrett yourself are going to be there. So we're pretty excited about it, and would love to have anybody that wants to come on over.
Great. Well, thanks for hosting that event. I'm excited to be part of it, Grant. So thanks for having us out there. Looks like it's going to be a great panel. And just some other thoughts, which again you've heard us talk about already, but we've got the Soil Health Journey Starts with Microbes webinar that we're doing in partnership with No-Till Magazine. Dave Stark will be running that meeting and really be going into the science of soil health and microbes and how they tie together. So please, join us there if you want to go deeper into the science of everything you heard today. And we have other webinars on soil health and fertility and profitability in partnership with Crop Life Magazine. Again, that'll be Dave Stark, and give you some more perspective on science and soil and microbes. And that's on March 12th. So either one of those webinars are great places to learn more about Holganix and soil health and how we can, potentially help you on your operation, make more money, put money in your pocket, and start that journey of soil health and that soil health flywheel, get it really spinning for you. That's what we want to do. And so if there's anybody out there that would like to learn more, we'll get a link on how to get a phone call with one of us to talk to you. And if there's any information we can send to you, we'll be reaching out to you with emails and links on how to get a hold of us or get any other resources you might need. So thanks everybody. I know everybody's busy. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to learn a little bit about Holganix and how it works out in the field from some of our farmers. And really want to thank Grant and John and Tim for taking time out of their day to be a resource for us. I really appreciate you guys. And so with that, we'll let you get back to being productive and having a great second half of your day. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.